Most people think of the Pope as a spiritual figure, humble, holy, far removed from the world of wealth and power. But here's the twist: the Vatican controls billions in assets, owns some of the most valuable real estate on the planet, and operates like a global corporation cloaked in ancient robes. So, how did Pope Francis, a man who preached simplicity and lived like a priest from the slums, navigate this empire? Did he secretly stash wealth? Did he quietly spend billions behind the scenes? Or did he do something no one expected with all that power at his fingertips? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the truth: how Pope Francis handled the Vatican's immense fortune, what he really did with that money, and why his legacy might just change how you see the Church forever. 1. The Vatican's vast wealth. The Vatican's financial empire is immense. Estimates place its assets between $10 to $15 billion, encompassing over 5,000 properties worldwide, including prime real estate in cities like London, Paris, and Geneva. However, this wealth is institutional, not personal. The Vatican's assets are intended for the Church's mission and are managed by various departments within the Holy See. Much of this money is tied up in long-term investments, museum revenue, donations, and real estate. The Vatican museums alone generate tens of millions of dollars annually through ticket sales and gift shops, while global donations through Peter's Pence fund the Church's charitable initiatives. But this financial power has also attracted scrutiny. From secretive banking operations to opaque property deals, critics have long accused the Vatican of hiding money and lacking transparency. Over the years, efforts have been made to clean house, but the system remains complex, protected by centuries of tradition and diplomatic immunity. 2. Pope Francis's personal finances. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, never showed interest in wealth. Even before becoming Pope, he was known for living in a small apartment in Buenos Aires, cooking his own meals, and riding the bus. When he took the papal office in 2013, he carried that same mindset with him to the Vatican. Unlike his predecessors, Francis refused to move into the lavish apostolic palace, choosing instead a modest suite in the Casa Santa Marta. He declined the papal salary, estimated around $400,000 annually, opting to let the Church cover only his essential living expenses. Reports indicate that he gave away most personal gifts he received and directed funds toward causes he personally believed in: refugee support, care for the homeless, and medical aid in war zones. His financial habits stood in stark contrast to the environment around him. While he had access to priceless art, vast bank accounts, and luxurious trappings, Francis lived simply, almost stubbornly so. When bishops and cardinals drove luxury cars, he publicly criticized them, telling clergy that their calling wasn't about careerism or comfort, it was about service. His lifestyle wasn't just a statement, it was a deliberate rejection of the Vatican's historic culture of privilege. 3. A lifestyle of humility. Francis didn't just talk about humility, he lived it daily. From day one, he broke tradition. When elected, instead of wearing the custom-made red shoes favored by popes before him, he kept his worn black ones. He refused the heavily embroidered mozzetta, the short cape of papal authority, and greeted the world in a plain white cassock. That was his message: less pomp, more purpose. He ate in the communal dining hall with Vatican staff, carried his own briefcase, and even paid his own hotel bill after becoming Pope, something unheard of in the Vatican's centuries-long history. When traveling, he chose economy-class flights as a cardinal and stuck to modest vehicles as Pope, often seen in a Ford Focus or even a 1984 Renault donated by a parish priest. His personal touch extended beyond appearances. He was known to make surprise phone calls to ordinary people who wrote him letters, offering support to a woman facing abuse, or encouragement to a grieving parent. These weren't PR stunts. Francis consistently avoided the spotlight unless it helped others. His daily choices, quiet, consistent, human, made his lifestyle more powerful than any speech. In a palace of gold, he stayed grounded in grace. 4. Redirecting wealth to charity. When Pope Francis came into possession of expensive or luxurious gifts, he didn't keep them. He redirected nearly everything of high value toward charitable causes. One of the most well-known examples came in 2017, when Lamborghini gifted him a custom white and gold Huracan. Instead of driving it, or even displaying it, Francis signed the hood and sent it to auction. The car sold for nearly $1 million. The proceeds were split between projects to rebuild Christian communities in Iraq, support victims of human trafficking, and assist outreach efforts in Africa. This wasn't a one-off. When wealthy donors handed him ornate religious items, designer clothes, or jewelry, Francis typically passed him along, either for fundraising or as direct gifts to missions, clinics, or shelters. He didn't want luxury in his personal space, nor did he want it gathering dust in Vatican storage. Even with church funds under his control, he funneled resources away from institutional excess. He insisted on financial audits, capped spending within Vatican departments, and called on dioceses to do more with less. To him, wealth was a tool, not for indulgence, but for impact. And he wielded it with surgical precision, always asking, who needs this more than we do? 5. Financial reforms and challenges. From the moment Francis stepped into power, he knew the Vatican's finances needed serious reform. For decades, its bank, the Institute for the Works of Religion, was a black box of secrecy, often accused of money laundering, corruption, and shady offshore dealings. Francis cracked it open. He hired external auditors, enforced compliance with international financial standards, and even shut down dozens of suspicious accounts. In 2020, he issued a decree stripping the powerful Secretariat of State of its financial autonomy after a disastrous $400 million London real estate deal exposed deep mismanagement and possible fraud. The fallout led to criminal charges against high-ranking officials, including a cardinal, an unprecedented move. Under his watch, the Vatican began publicly releasing annual budgets and financial statements, trying to rebuild trust that had eroded for decades. But reforming a centuries-old institution built on secrecy wasn't easy. Francis faced fierce internal resistance. Some departments dragged their feet, others outright ignored his directives. At times, even his closest allies became targets of entrenched factions trying to protect old power structures. Despite setbacks, he stayed the course. Transparency wasn't just a policy to him, it was a moral obligation. And he made it clear, if the Church wanted moral authority in the world, it had to put its financial house in order. In a world where religious leaders often get caught in scandal, Pope Francis was different. He had access to staggering wealth, but he chose to live with less. No golden throne, no private jets, no mansions. Just a man in second-hand shoes, quietly redirecting millions to the forgotten corners of the world. His life sends a clear message: true power isn't about what you own, it's about what you give away. Whether you admire him or question his choices, one thing is certain: Pope Francis didn't just preach humility. He lived it. And in doing so, he redefined what leadership looks like at the top of one of the richest institutions on earth. If this story challenged what you thought you knew, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and drop a comment. What surprised you most about Pope Francis's secret financial life? Thanks for watching.